Hello viewers and welcome to the world of Dominions 4 Thrones of Ascension with me, PewPewChoo. So today we'll be taking a look at this pre-release version of the upcoming turn-based strategy game, and in particular because this game is, well, it's quite hardcore. It has a lot of depth, a lot of complexity, and a lot of variety. I kind of figured instead of actually jumping on into a Let's Play series just yet, I want to just kind of experiment with the game, play out a nice variety of different factions, and really introduce the game to you guys. So let's begin. Let's create a new map here. This game, it's both single player and multiplayer. For the most part, I've seen like quite a lot of people play the multiplayer portion on the Shrapnel Games forums for the third installment of the game. This is obviously the fourth. So we're going to start off a game. We're going to name it Test, and let's begin the journey of choosing our faction and whatnot. So the first screen presented here is that you can choose an era for which your game takes place in. We essentially play as a factions. We play as a factions as leader, which we can customize, and I'll get into that a little more. But the era selection here is that the game is set in a high fantasy universe. There are 3 ages, each one with different factions and different unit selections, as well as magic tools, as you can probably tell by the little descriptions here. So, what we're going to be doing today is actually, let's just begin a fairly simple 1v1 game. We will be choosing a faction out of this list, and essentially how this works is that we play as the commander of a faction, the leader of the faction, which is a demigod, and in the world of Dominions or the Ascension Wars period, essentially what has happened was that the present god has gotten up and left for whatever reason. Now the demigods of the land, enormously powerful, either immortal or mortal beings, are essentially fighting for the right of ascension. With that said, each and every god, or demigod rather, controls one faction, and out of this list, as you can probably tell, there is a very, very large cast of factions, each with their own characteristics and their own units. So, yeah, this game has a lot of replayability, to say the least. We're going to be taking a look at Abysia today, Blood and Fire, which is, well, they're rather like a unique faction in the sense that their characteristics are immediately noticeable. So without further ado, let's begin. Actually, one thing that I should talk about is that inside this video, we're probably just going to be covering the basics of the gameplay for today, and later on we'll be taking a look at the advanced stuff. One of the things that returning players may have noticed is that there is this discipled game option here, and that is a little bit of an advanced setting, but because the game is centered around demigods and the ascension to godhood, if you had this game in multiplayer mode with like I don't know, like 16 some people, it was essentially a gigantic free-for-all, although there was a diplomacy option to essentially contact each others and make pacts and stuff, which might be enforced, might not be. You might get backstabbed or whatnot. So in order to have true team-based games, they have implemented that system now. I'm gonna talk about that later on once again. So, you've probably read all of this text by now if you are, just the type of person who's interested in that, but essentially, Abysia is a race of heat-producing humanoids. They focus on having heavy infantry, which are people in, big armored suits with spears and whatnot, and I think of like the Legionnaires from the Roman period is how I like to think of it. And, well, because they are essentially a lava-born race, they actually produce heat themselves. So while they can't use bows because bows melt in their hands, apparently they just never thought of making a metal bow. But anyways, your units do give off heat, so you essentially imply this type of scorched earth policy no matter what, wherever you go. The second part of setting up your faction is choosing up is choosing your leader, your demigod. Each faction has a large cast from which it can choose from. Some of them may be very generic, while other ones may be like purely solely fitted for that one particular relation. For example, we have the Archmage here, which is, you know, kind of generic. It's just your guy who casts spells and wears a pointy hat. But what we're actually going to be playing as today is the Phoenix. So the Phoenix here, well, there's quite a lot of stats here. We're just going to ignore the main bulk of it for now, but the one thing that we have to concentrate on is the fact that it is immortal, thus making us be able to win in the early game fairly easily, and even if we don't, well, we can just resurrect over and over and over again. With that said, let's go over the magic and the dominion tabs here. I had dental surgery, so I'm a little thirsty now. The magic section here is essentially playing into the magic portion of the game. Your commanders and wizards and priests and whatnot are represented on the map, and they can cast various different spells and things, so long as they have the magic skills for it. We're going to give our demigod here a fire spell or a fire value of 5 and a air value of 3, so he'll be able to cast some fairly high-tech spells as soon as they are available to us. The Dominion system here is essentially picking out what your faction uses throughout, or what is your faction's traits throughout the game. So for example, Abyssea focuses on heavy infantry, which are quite expensive inside the resources section, so we're going to bump up our productivity value here, which will give us a little more resources, thus making us build a few more units. And Dominion, or rather influence, represented by the candle, is simply how fanatical people are towards your god, which makes things a lot easier if you, say want to conquer the world inside this game. We can get the option to name our god. It'll automatically generate one a name for us if we don't want to, but we're going to be called Ben simply because we get that message. It's like, all praise Ben, yay! We have a few other game settings. I usually just leave them as it is. I mean, most of these are for playing multiplayer games. And now let's go to map generation. So, like I said, the map is randomly generated. We're just going to have to wait a while as it essentially hand paints us a map. I think we'll be doing maybe a series of 5 videos, including this one, covering 5 introductory little factions and just kind of playing through there before we kind of settle down to a vote and then pick out which faction we want to play for our Let's Play. So that's kind of how we want to do that. There's a little bit of a story blob here that essentially just summarizes the plot of the game, but I think I've pretty much said the gist of it. So you can read all of that here. In the beginning there was chaos, a god emerged, and then he essentially told everybody to sit back down, and then he disappeared, and now the Ascension Wars begin. So we start off inside this tile of Abyssea. This is our capital, this is essentially our fortress, and we are then given free access to the world to essentially do whatever we like. The map is scaled based on the amount of opponents you have, so this time we have a fairly small map. Later on we'll have a very big map, and don't worry, the map is a wraparound map, so it works like a globe, right? You can move from the left side to the right side of the border map fairly easily, and that's kind of why we can do this and scroll endlessly in one direction. Okay, so we've gotten that out of the way, and as you can see here, there's a ton of stuff on the HUD that we can go through, but for now let's just concentrate on the important things. Near the top left corner is our little panel about what our settlement produces and what is going on inside there, just general stats about it. Below that are unit cards or commander cards. These are the people who lead your armies, or otherwise exceptionally powerful individuals or exceptionally notable individuals, such as we have a Slayer here, which is an Abyssian assassin. He is also our scout, so he can essentially stealth his way into different provinces and give us a look there. We have our god, of course, and we have Togric over here, which is a Abyssian warlord, a commander in other words. Let's look at recruiting some units inside this game. Dominions 4 in the Dominion series, I mean, it has well, it has this multiplayer flavor to it, in that it's really easy to snowball in victory if you grab a ton of land at the beginning of the game and you set up your resources perfectly, and you can roll through everything. But if you fall behind, you do have to, you know, play a painful game of catch up. So let's build some units. You can recruit commanders in the top tab here, and then units inside the bottom tab here. You were returning players from Dominions 3 may have recognized that there's something new here called the repeat recruitment option here, which will essentially just recruit these units, whatever's inside the queue, repeatedly every single turn. Oh, what else do we have to look at here? Well, how the resources system works inside this game is that, well, we're going to ignore holy points for now and just take a look at resources and income. Income we gain essentially as a taxation from all of the map provinces, and that just goes to our global treasury. Resources are essentially provincial or local on the map. So for example, resources don't carry from province to province. We only have so many inside one province, although we can do a few things to alter that as well. For now, we're just going to be recruiting 4 of these guys, simply because Abyssian infantry, like I said, takes a lot of resources, so we can only recruit a few of them. If we actually right click on one of these infantry units, we get, once again, a ton of stats on what type of weapons they use, what are their skills, and whatnot. They have a lot of stuff going on, but we will get into that a little bit later. For now, we will just recruit 1 commander, which will be a wizardy commander, and some infantry. We're going to get Ben to start researching some spells, and that will help us in the long term, because that'll unlock some super duper powers for us. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees or branches of magic that we can essentially go into. We're going to be getting evocation right away, simply because the way you unlock magic spells inside this game is that each spell has a certain number of points required inside one particular element to use, but in order to unlock the spell, you had to unlock it from this list. So we're going to go with evocation, which is essentially the combat spells. With that set up, we can end the first turn, so let's do that. In this game, the turns play fairly fast. So a proclamation has been sent forward by our enemy, and this is essentially designating a profit unit, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Now that the first turn has been accomplished, or has been ended, our little assassin here has been able to give us full information on the local places on the map. So as you can probably tell, he's given us quite a lot of information about the neutral settlements. Each neutral settlement has their own militia, which we'll have to overcome in order to just kind of advance. What we're going to do is that we're going to go into the army setup tab, and we are going to essentially grab all of our guys and put them with Ben the Phoenix. And Ben the Phoenix now has an army which you can lead into this town of Rena, which it'll be able to overwhelm the militia of 20 units very, very easily, taking that into our control. So that's all we really have to do for this turn. We're still recruiting some stuff here with the auto repeat. We're recruiting more units for us to send into the meat grinder, and because our demon bred sorcerer over here takes quite a little bit of time to recruit, he's just going to be sitting in that queue for a little more. And with that, let's end our turn. And then it'll give us the battle information. So we fought a battle inside Rena, and we can actually view the battle in a Total War-esque little map. So like I said, our guys produce heat by themselves, and as you can probably tell, there's kind of like wherever they walk, they have this flames and smoke thing going on. That's because our Abyssian infantry, when clumped up together, they'll form this firewall of sorts, where it essentially scorches the ground and makes it very, very difficult for enemy melee guys to hit us. Now, because they're heavy infantry, they do a lot of damage with the weapons, and because they set the flames below them on fire, we get a second attack of sorts when the flames hit our opponents. And let's just speed the battle here. And there we go, so we routed all the enemy guys. Now, it's very hard to compare this game to other titles out there. I'm actually just going to end the loop right here. But I would actually compare it to like one of the Total War games, simply because it does share a few similar things, right? I mean, you do the overworld moving, and then you can join in on the battles, which is rather cool. So with that said, what we're going to do is that we're going to first and foremost open up our little contextual menu here, and we're going to order our newly recruited demon bread, which is once again the sorcerer. He's going to become our faction's prophet, which acts as a secondary demigod of sorts, a secondary hero essentially, which will be able to spread our dominion. How dominion works is that if we go to our capital and then we click on the productivity, the dominion info here, you'll see that we're getting the full weight of our dominions as traits. And if you remember back to our lobby, we set up so that we had 3 productivity inside our realm, which will give us extra resources for us to crank out units. Well, your dominion essentially measures the strength of your, well, technically you are a god, so technically you would have a religion to follow you, and the dominion essentially measures the strength of that religious stuff going on. So your prophet and your priests, which are a secondary sort of wizard, can essentially spread your dominion, which will then put your traits onto your different provinces, which will obviously help out. What we're going to do now that we've captured one province here is that we're going to go around our capitals here, cities, provinces, and we're going to try to take all of those first. The reason we're going to do that is simply because if you have a fortress on the map somewhere, you essentially get more resources, and these resources are essentially siphoned off of the nearby places, but you can't control that. That simply is determined by where your fortress is and your surroundings, and how many you can take, really. So first and foremost, we're going to do that, and there's going to be another battle here. We can watch it once again, but we don't really need to. We're going to get our prophet to do some more research now that our Phoenix is essentially walking around and stomping things, so he can't be really bothered to do that. And we are going to get essentially a second army set up for Togric the Warlord, so that he can kind of play his role inside this too. So just end the turn like that. There's probably, yeah, there's going to be another battle, and we will definitely win that. There we go. One of the newer things added inside the new version of the game here, Dominions 4, is there are now rivers on the map, and then you have caves, which are actually provinces that you can actually go into, which is rather cool. And you also have some other map objects. Did I talk about how we win this yet? No, I don't think so, so my apologies for that. The victory inside this game is essentially determined by 3 things. One, because you, like I said, you do have a religion represented by the Dominion system. If your religion essentially dies out because of enemies putting their priests into your territory and whatnot, and essentially bumping you out, you do lose. If you lose all of your provinces, well, obviously you do lose, and how essentially you win is that you can do exactly the opposite. You can conquer everybody either through taking their provinces or doing more of a laid-back cultural victory by moving your troops, by planning a successful takeover, by essentially breaking your opponent's back by siphoning out all of his influence. Alternatively, the new expansion adds one more type of victory, in which you can win by taking the Thrones of Ascension, represented by the little throne right here. There's 2 on the map because it's a 1v1 game, so with a total of 2 players, and well, yeah, we had to take both of them to win. Let's see what has happened in Grey Mercs. There will be random events happening throughout the game, and it looks like children are disappearing. Strange wilderness creatures sulk in the wilderness. So those events can be good or bad, and obviously it can either help you or hinder you. And yeah, so that's kind of how that goes. Another thing that can happen is that inside Dominions 4 there are going to be global random events, so those things can also happen as well. Now we want to seize this tile, the actual Throne of Ascension province, which is heavily guarded by about 50 units, mainly heavy infantry and heavy cavalry, so it's definitely going to be harder than what we fought before. We've got 2 armies here, and what we can do to essentially help our forces out is optimize them. And what I mean by that is, first and foremost, I'm going to get our units to just kind of stack up into one gigantic force, and I will get our forces set up. So, the battle system inside this game works in that you can set up how you want your troops to perform before battle, you can position them, and you can issue orders for the first few turns, but afterwards it's all dependent on your men. With that said, we can do our best to optimize our military setup so that we get a better chance of winning. So what I'm doing here is I'm essentially going to order our units to move up in a line formation. Inside the original game, or inside Dominions 3, you couldn't actually use these formation keys. I think everybody had to line up in boxes, which is rather unfortunate. So once we set that, we can issue them some orders. We can set some battle orders such as attack, retreat, and or hold, and then move forward. Hold for a few turns and move forward. But the main thing here is that you can issue spell orders to your magicians, your wizards, to cast specific spells. And what I mean by that is that you can really chain up your mages, so then you get like a set of 6 people casting some very, very high-end spells at once, devastating the enemy lines at the beginning of the battle. So because we don't have access to those high-end spells just yet, we will be getting our forces here to just essentially form up into a better formation and attack. So let's go. Did we win the battle? Yes, we did. Perfect. Let's view this conflict this time. So yeah, our troops are formed up inside a gigantic ball. Our warlord commanders in the front and our phoenixes in the back. Because we have so many of these troops, Abyssian troops, set up at one place, it sets the ground on fire. Like I said, our opponents here unfortunately have a large number of melee infantry, which are so happen going to be walking into our flames. Yeah, these guys will probably start burning anytime soon now. So very devastating stuff going on. The back line over here is generally composed of magic casters. As you can see here, they're putting down their spells as we are doing ours. And as soon as the morale collapses, we essentially win, and that will be the end of that battle. Now, the one thing that I dislike about Abyssea right now is mainly the fact that while they do have very, very high quality troops, they can't move very fast, so we're limited to moving 1 tile per turn, which is a little bit of a problem considering that in the multiplayer game, it's very, very aggressive. You have to expand very, very fast. So, you know, this is a good turtling faction. It's a good place to just kind of set up your forces if you know you want really reliable troops. And whoops, I forgot to do one thing. So we're going to have to get these guys to move back there, but that's alright. So now that we have the tile here, first and foremost, we can look at some of the different sites that the province has on the side here. And that actually goes for a capital as well, where we have a fortification, a laboratory, a temple, and 2 other things. One of the things that we can do inside this tile is that first and foremost we can see what the volcano does. It increases heat and it produces fire gems. Fire gems and gems of all kinds are essentially used to cast really, really deadly magic spells. What we're going to do is that we are going to claim the Throne of Ascension here, which will essentially activate this Throne of the Night, and it'll give us that Spreads Dominion +1 perk, as well as the Blessed Troops Get Dark Vision. You can bless your troops with bonuses, provided that they are sacred troops. So let's end the turn, let's just get that done with, and let's move towards the other Throne of Ascension, and hopefully take that over. Now, as these battles go on and on, we can level up, we can get a few additional things for our troops. For example, Toguruk the Warlord here, he, well, this essentially goes over his stats and his equipment, but over the course of battle, he gains experience, he'll get some more morale and some more skills overall, but another thing that he's gained is a heroic ability. So, you know, this level really adds to the gameplay where your individual commanders can have certain traits. For example, this guy is tough. He has tough skin, he has increased protection, a little mild on the game's side, but you could get like really good people, and alternatively you can really get really bad people, because if our people get injured in battle, they can actually end up with like crippled limbs and stuff like that, and that'll carry throughout battles as well. So Ben is just going to make his way to the map is small, so that we can actually, like, yeah, we can how about we advance onto that other Throne of Ascension from both sides. Let's go from here as well. Okay, so we are essentially going to press over there. What did I do? Let's see. I think I did something. Oh, I didn't issue the move order, that's why. Ben is now going to come over there, and he is going to hopefully smack down that group of barbarians. In the meantime, our research has reached level 2, so we'll take a look at the magic that we've essentially gained next turn. Oh, that's right, there's a river here, so unfortunately we can't move past it with Toguruk's troops. Yeah, because we're playing as a lava, I'm not sure about the rivers actually. It's because we're playing as Abyssea, their troops obviously enjoy the heat and whatnot, and water is obviously a big no-no for them. You might be able to cross the river with a human faction, but I'm not too sure about that. So, but anyways, now that that is out of the way, let's just get Ben to roll into this place. But before we do, let's give Ben some orders. Or actually, let's give some orders for his troops first. His troops are Abyssian infantry because they spread fire, which is usually kept behind the front lines, unfortunately. We're going to order them to attack the rearmost enemies, simply because our infantrymen are slow and they're going to take a long time to walk forward. But anyways, if they get engaged in battle by the enemy, they get engaged in the battle with the enemy, so either way, that's fine with that. With me, but if we attack the rearmost enemies, we should be getting the benefit of being able to set their the troops that we've essentially overrun on fire, which is good. I'm going to get in here and essentially order our commander to use a few spells at the beginning of the game. I'm going to I'm going to play the Sulfur Haze order at the start of the game, which will essentially put down a series of sulfur clouds onto the map, which will be able to do some damage. In addition, we're going to get a few orders of flare, which will do a little bit of damage, taking out you know, groups of enemies, and that's essentially that. You can go a lot more in depth with the spells. For example, mages can form a chain, a wizard circle of sorts, where they each feed into one master's powers, and then that obviously allows you to cast some very heavy stuff. You can make like blood sacrifices with slaves, and do a lot of funky stuff like that. Ah, they have archers this time. Good choice. And lightning bolts. And they've actually they've been able to raise some skeletons too. That's kind of cool. So yeah, the magic in this game is pretty elaborate. In the meantime, we will just be playing our spells as such. So I'm actually going to speed up this battle. Let's see where this goes, really. Yeah, our front lines is just going to crush it. The more that we advance, the better, really. And it looks like their front line has collapsed, and they probably won't live to see the next little bit. There we go. So that's a very nice victory for us, and well, that should allow us to essentially claim this Throne of Ascension and end the game. It looks like the AI was probably inside one of these upper places, they may actually be a water faction and a aquatic faction, so that might be another reason why we didn't see a lot of them. But anyways, I'm glad that they kind of kept out of our little thing over here, and well, we should have essentially won by now. So let's see, let's go to the statistics. Thrones of Ascension, we have claimed 2 of them. It looks like we need to claim 3 of them. There was a 3rd one here, and that is in the mountainside here, so we will have to go back and grab that one too. That's alright though. I thought I put it on 2 though, but either way really it works, right? So, let's just quickly speed it up and get over there. In the meantime, while we go through all of these turns, we can actually take a look at some of the different units that we have. Abyssians focus mainly on using their own infantry, but in addition to them, they have human-bred infantry, which are a little bit cheaper, but they don't have the ability to set the ground on fire beneath them, which is obviously a little bit of a downer. But then again, they should fare better on simply because of their cost. In addition to that, we have one of these salamander things. Well, these things are pretty vulnerable. They're ranged units, but they do have a lot of armor penetration, so they can take down giants and you know, stuff and such like that with ease. Now I haven't used my spy in a couple of turns, so I think I'll get him to wander about as well. And right now we should be able to snatch a nice and easy victory here. Our troops are starving in Zhalfira because, well, there aren't enough supplies inside the province. Supplies obviously plays a role in supplying your faction, right? So, with that said, we do have to keep that in mind. And one of the things that comes from that is that you actually can only support a certain amount of troops from one province, but supplies provide another role in sieges, where, for example, if somebody tried to siege your capital here, which is a fortification, they are going to have to go through the lengthy process of waiting outside the castle walls for that. So with our fortifications, we can actually upgrade them using this section here, which is a new feature added in Dominions 4, where we can add, say, extra storage sheds, which will be able to just kind of extend the sieging process, giving us a little more time to rally our troops and bring them forward. Now that we've been assembled to an attack here, because the enemy has brought quite a lot of their own good troops, we are going to have to do a few things. We're going to get Togric the Warlord here to be in the vanguard with his own little detachment of troops, and he is going to do a double line formation, so he's going to really pack his troops, but he is going to attack the closest enemies while our main troops essentially rush forward, and this is so that Togric the Warlord will handle the bulk of their forces and Benz's troops will hopefully smash everything else. Last time I didn't see that that sulfur haze being used a lot, so we're actually going to assign another another sulfur haze thing, so hopefully we'll be able to use that this turn, and we will be moving forward. Actually, sulfur haze might use some of those magic gems that I was talking about earlier, so I'm just going to check that really fast. Does it say anything? Doesn't look like it, so that should be fine. Can we cast anything on the campaign map just yet? No, unfortunately not. I believe back inside our capital here, we can actually cast a ritual spell. A ritual spell would use gems. Actually, we don't have any available, but there is one that essentially attacks the enemy from afar, kind of like a bombardment spell. I kind of hope that I'd be able to demonstrate that, but unfortunately not. So there's a battle in Troll Peaks. Let's view this battle. This will be massive. Eventually, later on in the game, and if you're playing with like pros, you'll be able to have like huge 1,000 per unit battles, which is quite massive. Oh, I see. So the sulfur haze is being activated in the back of the lines here. Unfortunately, it looks like well, there's snow on the ground, right? So we can't exactly light it up on fire. So we're going to have to forgo that. they are bringing they're bringing in some ogres, some heavy hitters into the battlefield, but I believe having enough troops to essentially take them down just like that. So that's just about. And that's a nice little flank attack there, hitting them from the sides. And that should essentially sweep away the enemy, folks. So yeah, they're gonna rout. They're obviously not all going to be dead. Because our infantry are a little slow, we can't really catch them. But hey, that's just what things happen, right? That just kind of plays into the unique part of each and every single one of the factions. So unfortunately, our warlord died, which is rather unfortunate. But we do have the throne now, so this should be essentially game over. Let's see, an unexpected event has happened, but you know, we should have all of the places now. Thrones of Ascension. We require 3 to become the new god. We own 3, so that should be fine. I'm gonna do a little extra thing here. You don't really need to know what this is for now, but essentially you can buy Provincial Defense, which will give you immobile troops instantaneously, and you can grab quite a lot of them to defend individual provinces. So I'm going to grab a bunch here just to defend the Thrones of Ascension, making it essentially very difficult for us to lose here. Over here, I think we've claimed the Iron Throne, and we're just going to put some more provincial defense. So essentially, militia into the line, and that should essentially seal the deal, I believe. Yeah, there we go. Game over. So the score graphs. We've toppled the AI.